folks. Back out here in the 30-60 plot up in Starbuck, Minnesota. This is Cody Nelson. Just wanted to come back up here and kind of give you guys an update. 8 years on this stuff. Just some monster ears out here in the 60-inch corn. Look at that thing. But anyways, so what we got going on here, for those of you just tuning in, we did 30-60. It was actually a 34,000 plant population. We did that all the way across the entire field. And as you can see, we just got 48 rows of this particular strip, and then we get back into the 30s. And I've had a few weeks to really think about this. I want to tell you a little bit about the blend. First off, we got 30 pounds of winter cereal rye. We have 10 pounds of annual ryegrass. There's 2 pounds of clover and a pound of Winfred brassica. And we definitely would make some changes to this as we go forward and continue to do more of the 30-60. I've been asked why we don't just go to straight 60, but I'm going to show you a couple things here. See, we got an excellent cover crop stand in between the rows. This is definitely the best in between the 60-inch rows. But remember, because we doubled that increased that population, now we get into these 30s, and you see it's not quite as good. And I kind of thought we'd have more sunlight reaching through the sides, and that wasn't the case. But actually, as we go back over here into the 30s, this is actually our second best. This is better than in between the 30s in between the 30s where there's 60-inch corn on each side of it. So you can see the brassicas didn't really do all that well. I'm not sure that we're going to have too many brassicas in the 30s. One thing I think of, I'm in an area where there's actually a lot of 22-inch planters. I think this 44 would make a lot of sense. I also think 60. Just going to 60. I've been told by several people that they've kind of got that 60-inch deal worked out. They're getting up to maintain a 36,000 plant population and not having a negative effect yield-wise. And ultimately, we got to maintain our yields in order to do that. But this is what I'm talking about. This doesn't look quite as good here as it does back over on the straight 30s. So how it was addressed to me was, we're wasting space. Let's try and grow something on every last inch of the topsoil and take full advantage of that. So just imagine that space all the way through every row. I think that's your best way to maximize things. Also had another question asked to me since taking those first pictures up here, our first fall pictures, was how's this going to affect possible fungus on your corn. So I want you to think about that. And I use the analogy, I got to thinking about ringworm and how we don't really see ringworm on cattle very often out in pasture, out where they've got they're out able to move and they've got sunlight and access to good air. We typically see it when you get them in confinement. And I'm not talking down on confinements, I'm just saying that's where we see more ringworm and when we get cattle in barns and tighter areas. So how would that affect this? Maybe we have less fungus issues on corn when we've got a little more space and we're creating that green barrier on the soil where the fungus is actually at. We know that affects white mold greatly when soybeans are planted into rye. So, you know, that's one possibility. Could we increase the legume population here and really cut back on some additional nitrogen needed or applied to this corn? You know, that's one possibility to make this deal work even better. You know, the reason we're trying this here is obviously to extend grazing, but even for I think this really works even for the people that don't have the cows or don't have the livestock. I don't think you necessarily got to have the livestock to generate a value here. How about cycling nutrients? You know, there's it's been stated many times that there's, you know, I've heard anywhere from 500 to 1,000 years worth of phosphorus and potassium for crop removals in the soil, but it's unavailable. So what's the best way to make that available? It's really just to cycle it through these different plant species. This is going to give us a great opportunity to increase soil diversity, and that's going to therefore increase biological activity in our soils, and we're going to be able to dramatically cycle these nutrients and make them available for our cash crops, you know. So I'm gonna draw this out for you and ask why this wouldn't work, and you can write in the comments why it would or not. But imagine we got a mix like this. Now this fall it gets grazed, and next spring that winter rye comes back real nice, and you know, I know it was only 30 pounds, but that 30 pounds had plenty of time to stool out over the summer and into the fall. It might look like a bushel planted in October. So now we can come back out here and we can just plant beans directly into this. So we get our beans planted. So essentially we plant corn, we plant our cover crop. You know, this was planted around V5 or V6 right in there. Then we come back and we harvest the corn. Now we're gonna plant beans next spring, plant green, and then maybe what do we do after that? You know, you can say, well, I'm gonna plant an early bean early into that rye. Maybe we're gonna try and let them both grow together for a while and then terminate the rye later. Maybe you just try and run a roller over it. I think that would work. I've seen some things where running a roller over that rye when that soybean's that second leaf and that rye's matured. Maybe that'll work. Maybe we still use herbicide. You know, there's some options. And then come back, harvest them beans. I like the idea of following it up with winter wheat, actually. Grow that winter wheat and then come back with diversity, and maybe, you know, really help that soil, help loosen that soil up with some different grasses and brassicas. And that's a good time after winter wheat, or even spring wheat for that matter, or any small grain. I don't want to forget about barley and some other options that we have, maybe some oats. Maybe you could grow some cover crop seed. I don't know, there's some possibilities there. So I'm just getting you to think outside the box a little bit. I think the opportunities here are endless. I want to make sure you don't think that you have to have cows to make this work. I think if you have cows, you probably got a little bit of an unfair advantage here of making stuff like this happen. So I just want to show you here. This is actually all ground that was chopped. This was chopped, I believe it was the 26th. I know we had a field day out here the 27th of August. So it was chopped shortly before that. Just look how this stuff's filled in real nice. So not very much silage ground, even after, you know, planting after, do we get cover this thick. So this is gonna do a lot of things. You can tell there's a pretty good slope here. We're gonna be able to increase soil staying here on these hilltops. Next spring, summer, even yesterday, we're going to infiltrate more of the water that lands here and not let that water slide down the hill. So we're going to increase water infiltration dramatically. So now we're going to grow better crops up on these hilltops throughout there, and in a wet year we're going to grow better crops on the bottom. We're not going to see near as big a drowned out spots. When you get this soil functioning, things working the way they're supposed to. Now there's just so many positives to this that it just kind of makes sense. So I'm gonna just point out there's an area right up there, and I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of corn that came down, and we see that in a lot of fields. That happens. But one thing that usually happens is you get a weed patch in there, and I can see it. You probably can't through this. I'm just using my phone here for a camera. But I see cover crops growing in there instead of weeds. So just another reason why we ought to try and get some more cover crops interseeded. I think actually most people would say, well, if I can have a cover crop like this established, I might just stick with 30s, which you could argue that. I'd argue back, you're not going to be able to maintain the diversity. I think we'll be able to tell a lot more next spring on how the winter rye really came through these 30s. I know this corn at one point in time did have a really thick canopy, but that annual rye is really thriving in there. There's definitely some winter rye that came through. Clovers have been a little weak, but there was only a couple pounds of clover, so you're not going to see very many of them. And like I say, the brassicas, Winford maybe just wasn't the right option, but we knew we were going to graze this late. We knew Winford stays alive real late into the fall, so we're not even sure when we're actually going to get back here. It may be December before we get back here. So anyways, it's going to be interesting to see how this moves forward. But like I say, it's October 11th. We'll get you some yield data. This stuff's going to get harvested and put right into a bin. The neighbors are actually buying the corn right off. I think they're getting kind of a non-GMO premium here on this. This is all conventional corn, so there's another savings. You can do that. So anyways, this is our plot, and just wanted to get you all updated. This mix was put together by Prairie Creek Seed down in Cascade, Iowa. Check them out. Very good seed source. So I'll keep you posted. I'll try and get back up here when we're harvesting and be able to get you some info that day. So I'll keep you posted. Thank you. Have a great day.